So this is geometry. It's semester 2. It's a unit called Angles Review, and it's unit number 8. It's lesson number 3 within that unit called Angles of Shapes with Diagonals Practice. It's on creatormath.com under the Geometry tab. The instructions are copy the following problems 1 through 7 into your composition book on the correct pages according to the table of contents with the notes for those pages from creatormath.com. You might have to type in creatormath.weebly.com when you search for it, otherwise it might not pop up. The other thing is if they tell you to only do problems 1 through 7, only do 1 through 7. There may be a lot more on this worksheet, but you only have to do the problems they state up here. So this one's 1 through 7, all right? So on that note, let's go ahead and see if we can let's just review how to get to the notes, right? A lot of times students go, where are those notes? You're on creatormath.weebly.com. Here's what the home page looks like. This is how you know it's the right website. It's got my goofy picture on it. That's how you know you're there. We're going to go to geometry. All the notes are under the tab for that class. We're going to pass by the vocabulary. You can use that for your vocabulary assignments, but we want to find the table of contents. The table of contents says geometry, semester 2, table of contents. This is to be put, and by this time in the semester, you should definitely have this written into pages 2 through 6 of your composition book. Here is the table of contents. You're going to write that whole thing into pages 2 through 6. It should fill up 2 to 4 pages, depending on how large you write. You're seeing the different units roll by. Within each of those are lessons. Here we get to, what are we on now? We're on Angles Review, and it's the 3rd lesson. So let's go back up to here. This says Angles Review. That's the unit. Within this unit, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 lessons. We are on lesson number 3. So we're right here, angles of shapes with diagonals. There's a page number here. That's where the notes go in your comp book. Don't look at this video for that. Go back to the original table of contents because by the time you watch this, it's probably different. All right. So this button notes, that's what you press to bring open the picture of your notes. And you're either going to get a picture of my notes or a picture of the board in this case. Once that loads, sometimes I have to do it twice to get it to load. These are the notes that you should have already copied into your comp book so that you can now do the problems on this practice sheet. It's things like given quadrilaterals with diagonals, how can we generalize to solve for unknown values? So we love quadrilaterals. That's a 4-sided shape. This, in this case, is a parallelogram. We're given a parallelogram and we're asked to find what x is. It looks like we're given 59x plus 2 in one corner and 60 in the other. And what we have to know is that the adjacent angles of a quadrilateral have a supplementary relationship. They total to 180 degrees. We talk about the opposite angles of a parallelogram, which are equal. So here you can see we placed them equal. We're going to do that in the problems. There's other issues about diagonals in terms of the pieces of the diagonals being equal to each other. Given, let's see, alternate interior angles are equal. We're talking about those pieces. That goes back to parallel lines cut by a transversal, which you can go back and look at that lesson. And let's see what else. We got vocabulary, quadrilateral, diagonal is a line from vertex to vertex. We'll show that. Parallelogram are 2 pairs of opposite parallel equal length sides, forming a quadrilateral. Congruent means equal in geometry. Maybe I can make this larger. Supplementary angles sum to 180. Hash marks show us what's equal. 3 dots means therefore. So these notes just give you a background to what you're going to do in the practice problems, and you're going to check back with those if you have trouble with any of these. Well, so let's deal with the first. Solve for x. Each figure is a parallelogram. So they're telling us that this shape, this side, is parallel to this one. Normally we'll show it with hash marks, but we don't have to if they tell us it's a parallelogram. These 2 sides are parallel. We use 2 hash marks for those, arrow hash marks, just to show that those 2 are parallel. That means also that these are an equal length, and these 2 are an equal length. We call them equal length pairs of opposite sides. Remember, in geometry, opposite means across from. So what we know about these, check the notes, and we see that these 2 adjacent angles in a parallelogram have a supplementary relationship, which means they sum, which means add, to 180 degrees. So we can take 60 degrees here, and we can add to it 59x plus 2. And we can place that equal to 180. And we can just solve this for x, and it looks like that's what they're asking us to do, solve for x. So we'll combine like terms. We'll go ahead and say this is 62. We have equals 180, and we have 59x here. We're going to subtract 62 from both sides. I'm going to encourage you to use your calculator if you need to, right? Say 180 minus 62 is 118. We're going to bring down the 59x right here. There's an equals in the middle. Remember, when we solve equations, the center line rolls right through the x. There's a right side and a left side. What we do to one side, we do to the other. We're trying to isolate the x. We're going to divide both sides by 59. And 59 over 59 is 1, so 1 times x leaves you with x. 118 divided by 59. 2. So this is the value of x, and if we wanted to know this angle up here, we'd have to plug it in, 59 times 2 plus 2. But they're only asking us what's the value of x, so it's 2. This looks like a same type problem. Again, it's a parallelogram. Again, they're asking for x. Again, they're adjacent to each other, which means 82 plus 10x plus 8 equals 180. That's the definition of supplementary angles, and that's, again, another lesson where we cover those angles. And we're going to combine like terms. 82 and 8 is 90. There's 180 still on the right, and there's a 10x still here. We're going to subtract 90 from both sides. Let's see, gone, because 90 minus 90 is 0. 10x left here. 10 divided by 10 on both sides, and x is equal to 90 divided by 10 is 9. Practice your equation solving a little bit and write it out a few times. If you forget it and or you didn't learn it that well to begin with, go back and practice your equation solving techniques and see if you can work through some of those problems. For the following rectangle, find SR. So they want to know this length side, or the length of this side. Right? So they tell us it's a rectangle. We know the definition of a rectangle says that all the angles are 90. That does make it a parallelogram, by the way. And a rectangle says that this opposite pairs of sides are equal length. So if we know this is 24 over here, we already know this is 24. Okay, well, that's kind of easy compared to the prior problem, but all right. Given the following parallelogram, what is x? Well, these angles are across from each other, otherwise known as opposite angles of this quadrilateral. In this case, it is a parallelogram because they told us. We know that these values are equal. These angles are equal to here, and these angles are equal to here. Right? That's the a fundamental understanding of that shape, which again is a prior lesson for us and possibly unit. So these two are equal. All we have to do now is say 125 equals 11x plus 15. Put them equal because they are equal. And let's solve for x. Let's subtract 15 from both sides. 125 minus 15 is 110 equals 11x. Divide both sides by 11. And I'm going to reverse the sides, which is totally illegal. I can flip them. I'm going to get 10. 11 times 10 is 110, right? So x equals 10. Circle that. And remember, they're asking what x is. A lot of times they'll say, now what's this measure of this angle? In this case, it would be easy. I know it's 125 degrees, so I could just say that. But if I plug in 10 here, that's 110 plus 15. It'll come back out to 125 as long as I did it right. I was consistent. Given the following parallelogram, what is the value of x? Well, this side is equal length to this, so we can just say 2x plus 18 is equal to 18. Minus 18, minus 18, gone. 2x equals, it's interesting, 0. So divide both sides by 2, and x equals 0. I think you have to trust yourself on this, because this is a very unusual way for equations to end. But let's go back and plug it in and just see if this makes sense to us. If x is 0, then this would be 2 times 0, which would be 0. And there'd be left an 18 here and an 18 here, and that's totally right, because both of those have to be the same length. So that's a very interesting equation to solve, I guess, but seems fine to me. These angles, opposite angles, are equal, so we're going to say 11x plus 15 equals 125. Which looks exactly like that problem we already did. So we're going to modify this by the time you get to it, all right? And or just remove it from the problem set. All right. No reason to do 2 of those. Here's a similar one. This says 2x plus 18 is the length of this. Are they just asking for x? Find x. It is a parallelogram because they tell us. So we're going to say 2x plus 18 equals 18 again, and this looks familiar to me too. So either I'm going to redo this one, or I'm going to 2x plus 18 equals 18. Or give you a couple more in here and then redo the video, okay? Or just remove them from the actual problem set. Might be easier for this go around. So make sure you're on the right problem set. This one is Angles Review. That's the name of the unit. It's unit number 8, and it is the 3rd lesson, Angles of Shapes with Diagonals Practice. It's on creatormath.com under the Geometry tab. Hope that helps.